that this behaviour—
Senator Antic, you will be in continuation when debate resumes. Senator Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann. Assistant Treasurer Sukkar has said about the home builder, and I quote, "Our view has been that this is a jobs program. It's going to support 500,000 jobs in the residential construction industry." Does the Prime Minister, Mr Morrison, stand by these numbers?
Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Home Builder, of course, is a very important program which recognises that the residential construction sector is of critical importance to the Australian economy, and which is, of course, why a number of state governments, including the state Labor government in my home state of Western Australia, has taken certain measures to support that sector. Pre-COVID, the residential construction sector forecast commencements of 171,000 compared to a forecast of 111,000 post-COVID commencements. Home Builder is expected to boost residential construction activity, directly supporting 140,000 tradies and a further up to 1 million jobs indirectly in the residential construction sector. These are, of course, estimates, and as always with estimates, as indirectly in the residential construction sector. And a further 1 million jobs indirectly in the residential construction sector. These are estimates. We will, of course, monitor the implementation of this very important scheme. A home builder is primarily about new construction of dwellings, with Treasury expecting around 20,000 new dwellings to be supported by the policy, compared to around 7,000 substantial renovations. So far, over 22,500 people have registered their interest.
Senator Gallagher, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Analysis by Credit Suisse has described the home builder program as, and I quote, "disappointingly small." The research note goes on to say, and I quote, "We doubt that the incentives delivered are large enough, nor the eligibility criteria wide enough to really move the needle." Why couldn't the government design a program that was capable of moving the needle in the construction sector?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Clearly we've made judgments based on what we believe is appropriate in the circumstances. Everybody will have their own views. Some people would like us to spend more, others would like us to spend less. We made a judgment about what we believe is appropriate in the circumstances, but of course everybody is entitled to their own views.
Senator Gallagher, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. The director of the Grattan Institute has described the Prime Minister's announcement as, and I quote, "classic retail politics but lousy economics. Australia has entered its first recession in 29 years. Is now the right time for the Prime Minister to be indulging in his passion for spin over substance?"
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. We completely disagree with the assertion made by the Grattan Institute, but we are used to the fact that whatever we do, there will be commentary from all sides, including the sorts of commentary that Senator Gallagher has just read out. We will continue to make judgments based on what we believe is in the best interest of working families around Australia, and including what is in the best interest of those Australians working in the residential construction sector.
Senator Bragg.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Cormann. Can the Minister inform the Senate how the Morrison government is driving the nation's economic recovery from COVID-19?
The Minister for Finance, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I thank Senator Bragg for that very important question. Of all OECD economies, Mr President, Australia is expected to have the third lowest fall in GDP in 2020. Nevertheless, we do have a very significant challenge in front of us as a nation. We will still have a very significant mountain to climb. Compared to our MyEFO forecasts, it is expected that over $100 billion of economic activity has been lost this year as a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We expect that it will take us 2 years to get back to the level of economic activity we were at pre-COVID-19. But our government has a plan to lift growth, not just in the next few months, but over the next 5 years. Our focus will be on jobs, jobs and jobs, providing the confidence and the incentive for businesses to invest and to hire. We have done it before and we will do it again. More than 1.5 million jobs were created across Australia under our government before COVID-19 hit. Increased investment in infrastructure will continue to be a central part of our plan. And today, the Prime Minister announced our commitment to invest a further $1.5 billion to start work on smaller priority projects identified by the states and territories. $1 billion will be allocated to priority projects which are now shovel-ready, with $500 million reserved specifically to target road safety works. That further $1.5 billion builds on around $7.8 billion worth of projects we've brought forward since November last year. In total, our government has committed nearly $180 billion in economic infrastructure over the next decade, with more than half allocated across the forward estimates. We have also announced a priority list of 15 major projects worth more than $72 billion in public and private investment.
Order. Senator Cormann. Senator Bragg, a supplementary question.
Minister, can you inform the Senate why this is the responsible path to economic recovery?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Restoring growth and getting Australians back into work is critical when it comes to our budget repair effort moving forward. Our budget has taken a hit, not just because of the necessary expenditure to support the economy, business and jobs through this crisis period, but also because of the impact of falling revenues. Our expenditure measures were targeted and time-limited, but the impacts on revenue will be longer-lived as the economy makes its way back. That is why we will have to recalibrate our fiscal strategy. We will do that in a responsible way. The budget will be balanced, again, by keeping expenditures under control while boosting revenues through pro-growth policies that lift investment and get Australians back into work. We will not pursue excessive authority nor high taxes. We will pursue growth and responsible budget management that ensures the government lives within its means while still guaranteeing the essential services Australians rely on. We must be very cautious about our expenditure
Order.
as we navigate
Senator
our way
Cormann,
back.
Time for the answers expired. Senator Bragg, a final supplementary question.
Can the minister inform the Senate about the risks of pursuing a different economic and fiscal policy direction?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Any suggestion to keep the significantly elevated levels of spending going on forever and ever would harm our economy and harm our budget. It would harm our capacity to sustainably fund the essential services of government on a sustainable basis. That is because it would require higher taxes over time, which would harm growth. Higher taxes over time, which would harm growth. I know that the socialists on the other side find that very hard to understand. Harming growth would harm government revenue over time. That has always, and that of course has always been the Labor way, higher spending funded by higher growth destroying taxes. Our government will put our country on a sustainable and responsible path and give the nation the best possible opportunity to thrive on the other side of this crisis. And of course the Australian people know that this is a government that delivers pro-growth, lower taxes, pro-business, pro-opportunity policies, whereas those on the other side, given half a chance, would go back to impose higher taxes, which leads to fewer jobs.
Order. Senator Cormann. Senator Green.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann. The design of the government's Home Builder program has been criticised internally and publicly. Housing experts are concerned that the Home Builder program won't deliver for regional areas where the required spend will overcapitalise existing houses. The LNP member for Herbert and the LNP member for Leichhardt have raised concerns that renovations for houses in their electorates will not meet the $150,000 threshold. Minister, how many Australians in regional areas does the government estimate will access the Home Builder program?
Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator
Thank you
Cormann.
very much, Mr. President. I thank Senator Green for that question. Regional areas will benefit from the new construction component comparatively more than other areas, as house and land prices are lower there, allowing them potentially a larger build while remaining under the cap. It is true that we've also included the substantial renovation component as part of this program, and that is in recognition That is in recognition of the fact that many Australian families can't afford to buy a bigger home, so a substantial renovation is the best way of supporting a growing family. That is why we've designed the program we have, and we stand by the program, but feel free to keep throwing rocks against it.
Senator, have you concluded your answer? Senator Cormann has concluded his answer. Senator Wong. Senator Green, a supplementary question.
Senator Canavan has said about the Home Builder program, and I quote, "I'm worried we are putting ourselves in a weaker position if asset prices in Australia were to fall." Does Mr Morrison agree with Senator Canavan?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Our focus and our commitment is to put Australia in a stronger position.
Senator Green.
You're not doing it though. That's the
Order.
problem.
Hopeless.
I'm going to. I'll call Senator Green when there is silence. Senator Green, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. The member for New England has said about the Home Builder program, and I quote, "I'm concerned about the complexity of trying to pay back that debt." Does Mr Morrison agree with Mr Joyce?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, you know what Senator Green has clearly noticed is that in the coalition we've got lots of individual members and senators contributing to the policy debate, which is a fantastic thing. But let me also.
Order.
But let me also say to the member for
Order
New
on
England
my
and
left.
everybody in this chamber that right around Australia, people are taking out loans to buy land and house packages every single day. People are going out to take out loans in order to organise substantial renovations, obviously on an ongoing basis. This is a program that is designed, it's an important program that is designed to support jobs in the residential construction sector. We will continue to monitor its implementation as we are rolling it out, and we are confident that this is going to make a positive and necessary contribution.
Senator Antich.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Employment, Skills, Small and Family Business, Senator Cash. Minister, as the global economy faces the greatest economic decline since the Great Depression as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, how will the Morrison government's JobMaker plan accelerate infrastructure investment to drive our economic recovery and create jobs for Australians?
The Minister for Employment, Skills, Small and Family Business, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Antic for the question. Mr President, the Prime Minister today outlined the next phase of the government's JobMaker plan to support Australia and Australians' recovery from COVID-19. He announced that almost $72 billion of major infrastructure projects across Australia will now be fast-tracked under an agreement struck between the state, federal and territory governments. It will see approval times slashed by half, and it will see the creation of 66,000 jobs. Mr President, as a government, we are also committing to a further $1.5 billion to immediately commence work on small priority projects identified by the states and the territories. $1 billion will be allocated to priority projects which are shovel-ready, and $500 million will be reserved specifically to target road safety works. Mr President, this builds on the $7.8 billion worth of projects we've brought forward since November of last year. 15 major projects are on fast track for approval under a bilateral model between the Commonwealth, the states and the territories. And the projects include emergency town water projects in New South Wales, road, rail and iron projects in Western Australia, the Inland Rail from Melbourne to Brisbane, the Marinus Link between Tasmania and Victoria, and of course, Senator Antic, in your home state, the Olympic Dam extension in South Australia. Mr President, these 15 job-creating investments will be brought forward by targeting a 50% reduction in Commonwealth assessment and approval times for major projects from an average of 3.5 years to 21 months.
Senator Antich, supplementary question.
Minister, how will the government's skills reform agenda support these job-creating infrastructure projects?
Senator Cash.
Well, Mr President, the JobMaker program builds on the significant steps that the Morrison government is already taking to transform our training system to ensure that we have the skilled workforce that Australia needs. Our $585 investment in our skills package, it is supporting Australians to ensure that they have the skills that Australian businesses are telling us that they need. We're establishing the National Skills Commission to improve our skills and our labour market forecasting. We have, of course, established the National Careers Institute to evaluate the status of vocational education and training and to provide evidence-based careers advice on vocational education pathways. We're also supporting, importantly, foundational skills for people with low educational attainment. Mr President, these reforms are critical to supporting Australians into careers, Australian businesses to get the skilled employees that they need and to support our infrastructure investment as we recover from COVID-19.
Senator Antich, a final supplementary question.
Minister, how will the government's JobMaker plan bring Australians together and support the economy to rebuild following the COVID-19 downturn?
Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. Well, the JobMaker plan is, of course, our roadmap for a new generation of economic success to guarantee the essential services that all Australians rely on. Mr President, as we all reset for growth, the Morrison government's JobMaker plan will be guided by principles to secure Australia's future, and these principles include: we will remain an outward-looking, open and sovereign trading economy. We must seek to leverage and build on our strengths, an educated and highly skilled workforce that supports a thriving and innovative services sector and a modern and competitive advanced manufacturing sector. And, of course, we must ensure that there is opportunity in Australia for those who have a go to get a go. Mr President, as we have shown, working together across states, across territories, together as Australians, we will be able to restore jobs and support the economic recovery that Australia needs as a result of COVID-19.
Senator Waters.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Foreign Minister, Senator Payne. Australian citizen Calm Gillespie has been sentenced to death in Guangzhou, China, and has just 10 days left to appeal his verdict. He's been detained in China for 6.5 years, and according to media reports, many of his friends thought he'd disappeared. Unlike other cases where Australians have faced the death penalty overseas, there's been no opportunity to mount a public campaign to support Mr Gillespie. Minister, when did the Australian government first become aware of Mr Gillespie's detention, and when did you become aware that he faced a possible death sentence?
The Minister for Foreign Affairs, Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Let me begin by saying that I am both saddened and deeply concerned that an Australian citizen, Mr Calm Gillespie, has been sentenced to death in China, and our thoughts are most certainly with him, his family and loved ones. There are a number of steps to go in the legal process, including an appeal opportunity. We are continuing to provide consular assistance to Mr Gillespie and his family in line with the Consular Services Charter. Mr President, the Australian Government, through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, has been providing appropriate consular assistance to Mr Gillespie for the period of his detention. I would indicate to the chamber that the government has offered a briefing on this matter to the Australian Greens, and I would appreciate the opportunity to take that up with Senator Waters.
Senator Waters, a supplementary question.
Thanks very much, Minister. I look forward to taking you up on that. I'm sure many Australians were as surprised as we were to hear over the weekend that Mr Gillespie had been sentenced to death, given that the public appeared to be unaware of his case. Why is the Australian public only finding out about his plight now? Why have you allowed this to happen? And at what levels and at which times did the Australian government raise this with the Chinese authorities?
Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. As I would have hoped, the Leader of the Australian Greens in the Senate was aware. Every consular case with which the government deals is different, and every consular case is handled in consultation with posts, with family, with legal representatives in the most appropriate way.
Senator Waters, a final supplementary question.
Thanks, President. Minister, how many other Australian citizens or permanent residents are currently detained in China's opaque and unjust judicial system, and how many are at risk of being sentenced to death during this particularly fractious time in our relationship with China?
Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. As I indicated in my response to the Leader of the Australian Greens' first question, we're very happy to provide the Australian Greens with a briefing on these matters. That offer has already been made today. There are a number of Australians in prison in China. In fact, there are a large number of Australians in prison in a number of locations around the world. That is obviously the case from time to time. And, of course, what we do remind Australians is Australians are always subject to the laws of countries that they are in. There are severe penalties in many countries for behaviour, particularly including drugs, and that includes China. But I will be endeavouring to repeat my offer to the Australian Greens to provide a briefing, an offer which was made earlier today.
Senator Walsh.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Aged Care, Senator Colbeck. I refer to the Minister who, when announcing the retention bonus for aged care workers, said, and I quote, "This will mean a payment of up to $800 after tax per quarter, paid for 2 quarters for direct care workers." Does the Minister stand by this statement?
The Minister for Aged Care and Senior Australians, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Thanks, Senator Walsh, for the question. Senator Walsh is correct. We have made a specific decision as government to provide support to residential aged care workers and some of those who are working in home care services, to support them and to indicate to them that as a government they are important to us and to the community, and we want them to continue to come to work, because in the early stages of the COVID-19 outbreak, Mr President, we found that there were some, particularly residential aged care workers, who had said that they did not want to come to work, particularly in the circumstance where there was a COVID outbreak within the residential aged care facility that they were working in. One thing that we didn't say, Mr President, is that the bonuses would be tax-free, because they're not, and that's not how these sorts of income bonuses work. And Mr President, we said up to $800. Well, we said up to $800 and up to $600 on each quarter, and so, Mr President, $1,600 additional income to workers in residential aged care is a significant amount of money, and we always said in our statements up to, Mr President. And, Mr President, $600, so $1,200 into home care services. Mr President, we never said at any point in time that these support bonuses would be tax-free. That was never said, Mr President. So we are quite proud of the fact that we continue to support residential aged care workers and home care workers as a part of our response to the COVID-19 process.
Senator Walsh, a supplementary question. Order.
Yes, I refer to the Minister who, when announcing the retention bonus for aged care workers, said it would provide, and I quote again, 2 payments of up to $600 after tax per quarter for 2 quarters for those who provide care in the home. Does the Minister stand by this statement in relation to the payments being after tax?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. And it's good that the Senator, in her supplementary question, actually acknowledges what I just said in my response to the first question, where we said up to $600 and up to $800, Mr President. And as I said in my first answer, we never said at any point in time that it would be tax-free, because that is not how income bonuses work. In exactly the same way that JobKeeper is subject to tax, these bonuses are also subject to tax, and it's good, Mr President, that the Senator has acknowledged in her question what I said in the answer to her first question, which was that these would be up to $800 and up to $600.
Senator Walsh, a final supplementary question.
Thank you. When the guidelines for the retention bonus were released late on a Friday afternoon, it was revealed payment amounts were switched to being before tax, When and by whom was this decision made? Why, when it comes to the delivery of the retention bonus, has the government again failed to deliver on its spin?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. The announcement that we made was consistent with approaches that we're making to all income bonuses, Mr President. And so, as I have said, and as Senator Walsh has indicated in her second question, we always said that these were up to $600 and up to $800 per quarter. And, Mr President, the decision that was in the guidelines that were released was a decision of government. That was a decision of government. So, in direct response to the question that Senator Walsh has asked, we said all along that these bonuses would be up to $600 per quarter and up to $800 per quarter. And, Mr President, this is, and I'm quite proud of the fact that this government has chosen to support residential and home care workers in their efforts during the COVID-19 outbreak, because we understand, Mr President, we understand the importance of these workers. And at the last election, despite promises and huge tax take, there was no money for workforce retention in the Labor Party's promises.
Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much. My question is to the Minister Cash, representing the Minister for Infrastructure. On the 13th of November 2019, the majority of coalition senators supported a notice of motion that the Senate, and I quote, call on the federal government to take the necessary steps to ensure the construction of a Bradfield-type scheme can begin in Queensland as swiftly as possible. Speaking to this motion, the government stated, and again I quote, there is no reason for the Australian government to oppose this motion. Today, the Prime Minister announced plans to fast-track a number of infrastructure projects, yet despite the government's claimed support, there was no mention of any form of Bradfield scheme. Why has the government chosen to leave the hybrid or new Bradfield scheme, a crucial nation-building project they have expressed their support for, off the Prime Minister's list of essential projects to be fast-tracked?
The Minister representing the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President, and I thank Senator Hanson for her question and in particular for acknowledging the significant announcement that the Prime Minister made today, as I alluded to in my previous question from Senator Antic, and the bringing forward of infrastructure projects across Australia to create around 66,000 jobs. In relation to the Bradfield scheme, I can provide you with the following information. The National Water Grid Authority, which, as you have referred to, commenced operation on the 1st of October 2019, is working with leading science agencies, including the CSIRO, to determine where and how water resources can be sustainably developed. This forms part of the Australian government's commitment to invest $100 million into bringing world-best science together to identify opportunities for enhancing water supply and reliability for regional Australia. As part of this work, the authority is considering options for developing large-scale water harvesting and transfer schemes, such as elements of the Bradfield scheme or hybrid versions of the Bradfield scheme, to capture and transport water to both grow agricultural sector and improve drought resilience. Over the decades since it was first proposed, there have been a number of assessments on the merit of the original Bradfield scheme and more recent variations. It is important that the feasibility of these schemes are now investigated using the best available contemporary science.
Senator Hanson, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. There has been a feasibility study done on it by the Snowy Mountain Engineering Corp in 2018. Water security is crucial to all Australians, especially given the horrendous drought that more than 60% of Queensland continues to endure. Why can't the government simply give the people of Australia a firm commitment that the hybrid Bradfield scheme will be added to the Prime Minister's list of projects that will be fast-tracked?
Senator Cash.
Well, thank you, Mr President, and I would refer Senator Hanson to the answer I just gave to my previous question. And my understanding is the Prime Minister announced certain projects today and said there'd be further announcements to come.
Senator Hanson, a final supplementary
I
question.
appreciate that, and I appreciate the water schemes that are actually being put in with the dams, but there has been no real commitment to the hybrid Bradfield scheme, which will actually bring water from going out to the ocean inland. So therefore I'd say the government has been very critical of Queensland's Labor's failure to give a clear date on border openings. Is it safe to say that because you won't commit to a date to start this project that the Liberal National Party have no plans to build the Bradfield scheme?
Senator Cash.
Thank you, Mr President. And Senator Hanson, I will have to reject the premise of your question. And as I said in my answer to your primary question, over the decade since it was first proposed, there have been a number of assessments on the merits of the original Bradfield scheme and more recent variations. It is important that the feasibility of these schemes are now investigated using the best available contemporary science.
Senator Van.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Government Services, Senator Ruston. Can the Minister update the Senate on how the Morrison government is using technology to respond to COVID-19 pandemic and to help support our economic recovery?
The Minister representing the Minister for Government Services, Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President, and thank you very much, Senator Van, for your question. It is absolutely unquestioned that Australia is doing an extraordinary job to flatten the curve of the coronavirus pandemic and to contain the spread, which means that we have saved many, many lives of Australians through this process. But now is not the time to be complacent. As restrictions are being eased in our communities, Mr President, it is absolutely important that all Australians remain safe and they understand what it is that they need to do to remain safe, because it's critically important not just for us as individuals, but it is very important that we don't just protect ourselves, but we actually need to look out for others. And that's why, through a society-wide effort to make sure that we have the appropriate response in place for the coronavirus, one that as I said, has made us a world leader and the envy of the rest of the world in areas such as testing, tracing and containing the virus. And we've worked absolutely tirelessly over the last few months to make sure that we have got the capacity in place, and that includes making sure that all Australians have got access to the kind of digital capabilities that they need to navigate their way through this pandemic and as we go forward. And it is absolutely vital that all Australians are empowered to proactively limit the spread of the coronavirus and protect the community. And that's why the Prime Minister launched Australia's contact tracing app COVIDSafe to help protect the lives and the health of the Australian community, to make sure that we were in a position that we could quickly respond and be able to trace people if they had come into contact with somebody who had the virus. And this app complements their existing manual process by which we do currently trace and track people, and that processes that are being undertaken by state and territory officials. It is absolutely essential that we have this in place as we ease restrictions on social gatherings.
Order. Senator Van, a supplementary question.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister. How else is the government ensuring information is available to all areas of the Australian public?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. The Australian government is assisting the Australian public in many ways, but including particularly making sure that we have an easy-to-access one place of information through the australia.gov.au website. It's the central source, it's the authoritative source, it's trusted, it's regularly updated, because we want to make sure that all Australians have got the information that they need regarding the coronavirus to keep themselves, their family, their friends and their community safe. This website brings absolutely crucial information together across all of government agencies, so that when people are seeking advice, whether it be about health measures, financial measures, welfare measures, that they are able to access it in one place. And this is guidance for businesses, for individuals, for travellers, for people with disability. Every Australian can access this site and get the kind of information that they need to navigate our way through this pandemic. Over 22 million people have visited the australia.gov.au website so far.
Senator Van, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, could you tell us what the government is doing to assist those more vulnerable in the Australian community?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Well, as restrictions begin to ease, it is really, really important that every Australian downloads the COVID Safe app so that we can make sure we can resume life as best we can. We can get people back into jobs, we can get people back out socialising, but to do so we also need to protect the most vulnerable, and the best way you can protect the vulnerable within our community is to make sure that you have the COVID Safe app on your phone. So far it's been really strongly received through the states and territories, and it is being recognised as a very valuable tool which has enabled our states and territories to lift the restrictions and make sure that this virus isn't silently creeping its way through our communities. But in addition to the COVID Safe app, we're also encouraging people to make sure that they make themselves available all forms of technology, all forms of information, so that they know what they need to be doing to protect the many vulnerable people that are in our community, because we have an obligation to keep them safe and not just ourselves.
Senator McCarthy.
Mr President, my question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann. On Thursday, Senator Stoker appeared on Sky News and said in relation to the Queensland Premier, and I quote, "She is choking the economy by having these borders shut. She is the knee on the throat of the businesses of Queensland, stopping them from breathing." Does Mr Morrison agree that it was insensitive and inappropriate for Senator Stoker to use the words of a dying man to make a political point on late-night TV?
The Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. I didn't see those comments, and rather than to provide commentary on alleged commentary, I'll have a conversation with Senator Stoker separately.
Senator McCarthy, a supplementary question.
Mr President, what action will Mr Morrison take?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. Well, it's the first I've heard of this, and I've just indicated what I will do before making any further comment. I'm not aware whether the Prime Minister is aware of this comment, so I would have to take that question on notice.
Senator McCarthy, a final supplementary question.
Senator Stoker is locked in a battle for Queensland LNP Senate pre-selection against Senator McGrath. Does Senator Stoker have Mr Morrison's full support?
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr President. The Prime Minister supports all his colleagues, and of course pre-selections are a matter for party organisations.
Senator Rennick.
My question is to the Minister for Aged Care and Senior Australians, Senator Colbeck. This year has been challenging for all Australians, particularly our seniors. Today, as we mark World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, can the Minister outline the steps the Morrison government has taken to tackle elder abuse in Australia?
The Minister for Aged Care and Senior Australians, Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. I thank Senator Rennick for his question. Mr President, elder abuse is something that all of us need to pay attention to. It is a particular problem in our community and takes, I think, will require some considerable community attitude change. The Morrison government is committed to ending the abuse of Australian seniors in all its forms. Today the government launched an awareness campaign to highlight the issue and assist those experiencing physical, emotional and financial abuse to get help. This is one of the many initiatives the government is delivering through the National Plan to respond to the abuse of older Australians. We're also committed, Mr President, to working with the states and territories to consider reforms such as those to enduring powers of attorney laws. Our government also funds various support programs, including a free 24-hour phone line, 1800 Elder Help, 1800 353 374, and the Older Persons Advocacy Network, OPAN, to provide free, confidential and independent advocacy to support older people, including for matters relating to elder abuse. Mr President, we have continued with the reform agenda to protect senior Australians in aged care while we continue through the Royal Commission running its course. We introduced unannounced re-accreditation visits from the 1st of July 2018. We established the Independent Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission on the 1st of January last year, bringing together the complaints accreditation, assessment and monitoring into one agency, as recommended by a number of reviews. We also introduced a suite of critical reforms commencing on the 1st of July last year, new consumer-facing standards, a new charter of aged care rights and a new national aged care mandatory quality indicator program.
Senator Rennick, a supplementary question.
Can the minister outline what measures the government has taken to ensure our senior Australians in aged care are being supported and kept safe during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. And the government has been extremely active to ensure that senior Australians not only are safe but have access to the services that they need during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission has continued to do all they can to meet the physical, mental health and social and emotional needs of aged care consumers, Mr President. The Commission continues to undertake its critical work, including conducting site visits while ensuring that, particularly importantly, infection control requirements are met with inspectors entering aged care facilities. While it's important to keep older Australians safe from COVID-19, it's also important to ensure that senior Australians in aged care facilities continue to have visitors for their overall well-being, Mr President. And in that context, the Code for Visiting Residential Aged Care Facilities has been a very, very important initiative undertaken by the government in conjunction with the sector.
Senator Colbeck. Senator Rennick, a final supplementary question.
Can the minister outline what the government is doing to protect older Australians in residential facilities against abuse?
Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Mr President. Again, I thank Senator Rennick for the question. Mr President, any mistreatment or assault of senior Australians or an aged care recipient is unacceptable, and the government takes all of those instances extremely seriously. Yesterday, on behalf of the government, I announced a further $23 million investment into the Serious Incident Response Scheme, which was a recommendation of the Australian Law Reform Commission report, to protect vulnerable Australians and senior Australians in aged care from abuse and neglect. Mr President, it's an important measure to increase the transparency to keep our loved ones safe. Residential aged care providers will be required to manage all incidents, including resident on resident and, importantly, resident on resident, and with a focus on safety, well-being and prevention. There is still much more work to do, Mr President, and the safety and well-being of all senior Australians continues to be one of the key priorities of the Morrison government.
Senator O'Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And my question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Communications, Cybersecurity and the Arts. The CEO of Australia Post argued that there was a 50% drop in addressed letter volumes as justification for the government's proposed changes to service requirements. But Australia Post today admitted that the drop in addressed letter volume for March was 7 times smaller than it had claimed and largely in line with forecasts. Why hasn't the government been honest with the Australian people about why it wants to slash postal services?
The Minister representing the Minister for Communications, Cyber Safety and the Arts, Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr President, and I thank the senator for that question. I find it quite extraordinary that Senator O'Neill could actually ask this question for a number of reasons, because the only mistruths that are coming are from those from the other side. And in fact, there are 7 mistruths, including the one that you have just mentioned, and I thoroughly reject the whole premise of your question. And let me give you 7 reasons why the premise of this question is not true. Labor has claimed that Australia Post will cut jobs and remove 1 in 4 posties. This is a lie. It is not true. Secondly, it's also been claimed that Australia Post wants to cut delivery services in half. This is also not true.
Senator Wong, on a point of order.
Also...
Sorry, Senator Reynolds, I have Senator Wong on a point of order. Order. Senator Wong.
Thank you, Mr President. Direct relevance. I know the minister is reading out the very lengthy press release that Senator Cormann put out. What we actually asked her about was material released today by Australia Post, which is their own numbers as to the drop in letter volumes.
Senator Cormann on the point of order.
On the point of order, the Minister directly dealt with the question in her opening sentences, in her opening statements, by rejecting the premise of the question. Now, Senator Wong might want to tell the Minister how to answer the question, but that is not in her capacity to do. So the Minister was being directly relevant, and she was providing further context for the Senate in an abundance of helpfulness.
So on the point of order, I am listening carefully to what the minister says. Senator Cormann is correct. I cannot instruct a minister how to answer a question. However, once a minister has addressed part of the question, further material that is provided must also be directly relevant. I am listening carefully to the minister. The part of the question I took related to volumes of business being conducted by Australia Post. Material that refers and relates to the volume as asserted in the question is directly relevant. Now, I'm listening to the minister's answer. She has 1 minute 17 remaining. Senator Reynolds.
Mr. President, and yes, I am seeking to be complete and thorough in my answer of all of the mistruths that have been told by those opposite in relation to Australia Post. So, parcel volumes are actually up 64%, so you asked for the latest numbers, and letter volumes are down 36% May on year from last year. So let me get back to the fourth untruth from Labor. So fourthly, Labor has claimed Australia and small business will be disadvantaged compared to metropolitan areas. Fourth untruth. The fifth untruth is it's been claimed by Labor that vulnerable Australians will be most impacted by the changes. Guess what? Also untrue. Labor has also claimed that the changes this government has implemented during COVID-19 are permanent. Again, guess what? Untrue. And the seventh big lie from Labor in relation to Australia Post is that the government wants to privatise Australia Post. Again, guess what? Absolutely untrue.
Senator O'Neill, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. The CEO of Australia Post has refused to provide a guarantee that there will be no forced redundancies. Will the minister give a guarantee that no Australia Post employees in delivery, transport or processing will be forced into redundancy? If not, how many people will lose their jobs, Minister?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you. I think Senator O'Neill didn't listen to my first of my 7 untruths, because clearly you hadn't heard the first one. So let me just repeat the first big untruth that Labor is peddling. As you've just said, it has been claimed by Labor that Australia Post will cut jobs and remove 1 in 4 posties, and this is simply not true. Australia Post has said repeatedly there will be no forced redundancies or plans to cut posties.
Senator Reynolds, I have Senator Wong on a point of order. Senator Wong.
If it's so easy, will the minister give a guarantee of no forced redundancies?
That's not a point of order, Senator Wong. That's a restatement of the question. Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, I mean, Senator Reynolds directly addressed the question. No forced redundancies. I mean, this is just a complete and utter furphy. The Labor Party pursuing conspiracy theory after conspiracy.
Okay, Senator Cormann,
completely
that's
distracted.
not a response to the point of order, but I'll let it go on the basis that there was not even a point of order initially. Senator Reynolds, to continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And if I can continue on that first point. So, Australia Post has said there will be no forced redundancies or plans to cut posties take-home pay new to the new temporary arrangements. Many posties will continue delivering letters on bikes, and others will be retrained to deliver parcels in vans because they're up 64%, putting them where, and she will be putting her posties where the work is, and that is with Parcel Post in particular.
Senator O'Neill, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Colbeck told this chamber that the government's proposal to double letter delivery times for many Australians was a response to COVID-19. Can the minister guarantee that Australia Post has not proposed similar changes prior to COVID-19?
Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And again, Senator O'Neill clearly didn't hear my third great myth being peddled by Labor, and I'll repeat that again for the benefit of those in the chamber. It has been claimed by Labor, again repeated now, that wait times for letters will more than double from 3 to 7 days, and that is not true. Mail speed standards for regular interstate letters—
Senator Reynolds, I have Senator Wong on a point of order.
direct relevance, and we can repeat the question if the minister didn't listen the first time. We are referring to an answer given by Senator Colbeck, where he indicated that this policy response was a response to COVID-19, and we've asked the minister to guarantee that Australia Post has not sought similar arrangements pre-COVID-19.
On the point of order, the quotation asserted from an answer last week did refer, I believe, to lengthening times of delivery. The minister is in order if she is addressing that particular point, and that is directly relevant because it was part of the quotation. Senator Reynolds.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And again, can say again that it is. You've claimed that there will be increase in wait times for letters from 3 to 7 days. This is not true. Mail speed standards for regular interstate letters, which is mail travelling around our country, have not changed.
Senator Reynolds. Senator O'Neill. Order, Senator Reynolds, please. Are you seeking point of order? It's hard to tell. Sorry, is that a point of order, Senator O'Neill? Please go ahead.
Senator Reynolds continues. We've heard a lot from her about my hearing capacity. I want to say it's pretty good. Senator Reynolds has not heard the first part of the question clearly. It was Senator Colbeck who told the chamber that the government's proposal to double letter delivery times for many Australians was a response to COVID-19. It was Senator Colbeck
Senator
who made
O'Neill,
that fact known.
believe it, you are going to the substance of an answer. I cannot instruct a minister how to answer. If the minister is talking about a claim that was made in the quotation you've used in your question, she is being directly relevant. Senator Reynolds.
Well, thank you very much. I think I've now made this point for the fourth time, that there have been no changes. No changes, no changes, no changes, no changes. And I think, as my colleague Minister Fletcher said, Labor is again resorting to its usual by-election tactics of whipping up a baseless scare campaign for
Senator
those
Reynolds,
in
time
aged
for
care
the answer has
Eden
expired.
Monaro.
Senator McLaughlin.
My question is for the Minister of Defence, Senator Reynolds. Can the minister outline how Australia will expand defence cooperation with India following the elevation of our bilateral relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership, and how this partnership will help drive our economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic?
The Minister for Defence, Senator Reynolds.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I thank Senator McLaughlin for the question and also for his enduring commitment to defence and to defence industry. Thank you. Strengthening Australia's defence relationships is a key priority for me and also for the Morrison government. That's why, since becoming minister, I've conducted 16 international visits and also hosted 6 international counterparts here in Australia. And during COVID-19, I've maintained this tempo of international engagements with over 20 virtual calls with 14 international counterparts. These defence relationships are critically important for our nation, none more so than our relationship with India. The recent Australia-India's Leaders Virtual Summit was a groundbreaking moment in our relationship. As Minister Birmingham outlined in this place last week, India and Australia's is the 5th largest export market, with the expansion of our trade relationship, which will be crucial as we both recover from COVID-19. And as my counterpart, Minister Singh, and I discussed at our last call, both our defence forces are playing leading roles in our nation's responses to COVID-19. The Comprehensive Strategic Partnership further strengthens our bonds through 2 new landmark defence agreements. Firstly, the Mutual Logistics Support Arrangement, which paves the way for deeper and more sophisticated defence cooperation between India and Australia. It will result in increased engagement through more complex military exercises, which will enhance our capacity to respond to shared regional challenges. Secondly, the Defence Science and Technology Arrangement, which recognises that collaboration is absolutely essential to optimise research outcomes for both nations. This arrangement will now place our 2 nations at the forefront of defence technological research. And through both these 2 new defence arrangements, we will work more seamlessly together to shape an open,
Senator
inclusive
Reynolds,
and
time
prosperous
for the
Indo-Pacific.
Senator McLaughlin, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can the minister update the Senate on the growth of Australia's defence cooperation with India and next steps for our engagement?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's very pleasing to see that our defence relationship with India continues to grow and to mature. The number of shared activities between the two of us has increased fourfold over the last 6 years alone. And last year, our bilateral cooperation reached new heights with the conduct of Exercise AUSINDEX, which is our most complex military exercise together to date. For the first time, our navies undertook anti-submarine warfare exercises together, and our P-8 maritime surveillance and response aircraft flew coordinated missions in the Bay of Bengal. The time is now right for both our nations to increase defence engagement and also cooperation. Our new comprehensive strategic partnership will enable this more complex and comprehensive joint activities, but it will also deepen our cooperation so that we together can address the challenges we both face in our region.
Senator McLaughlin, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister outline the importance of Australia's defence relationship with India in the Indo-Pacific?
Senator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr President. India and Australia are not only strong economic partners, but we are also natural security partners, particularly in the Indian Ocean. And as a West Australian, I am particularly cognisant of this. Our shared security challenges in the Indian Ocean include maritime threats, terrorism and natural disaster response. All of these have significant implications for the economic prosperity of both our nations. It is in Australia's national interest to work with India to address these challenges, both bilaterally, trilaterally and also multilaterally, through international forums such as the Indian Ocean Rim Association. There has never been a more important time for Australia to work with India and other like-minded nations to shape a prosperous, open and a stable post-COVID Indo-Pacific.
Senator McAllister.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Women, Senator Payne. Sophie from Rose Bay in Tasmania is pregnant with her second child. She lost her work contract due to COVID-19 and needed to stay home to homeschool her 5-year-old son. As a result, Centrelink have told her that she will no longer qualify for paid parental leave. She could not have planned for this situation. Why does the government believe women like Sophie should not have access to paid parental leave?
The Minister for Women, Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And I'll take the details of the specific case on notice and refer that to the responsible minister for further information. As I've said in the chamber before, nobody is able to plan for a pandemic. Nobody is able to plan for an economic response that has taken this government to extraordinary ends to address the challenges that the entire country is dealing with. And we have sought very, very hard to work with those opposite, in fact, and to work with the states and the territories in the process of that economic response. As Senator McAllister has raised specific issues in relation to an individual, I'll take those, as I said, on notice.
Senator McAllister, a supplementary question.
Thank you. Last week, the government voted against women like Sophie retaining their eligibility for paid parental leave. Sophie's child is due in September. She has struggled to find a new job. The government's decision means she only has weeks to find a way to replace the paid parental leave she was going to rely on. Why is the government punishing women like Sophie for the economic consequences of COVID-19?
Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr President. And there are a number of supports available to families who don't currently meet the paid parental leave tests. Those who have lost a job or have reduced hours during the COVID-19 pandemic should appropriately check with their employer if they're in the first instance eligible for a JobKeeper payment. We also recently amended the Paid Parental Leave Act to allow for the period a person receives the JobKeeper payment to count toward the paid parental leave work test. Parents who have lost their job but don't meet the paid parental leave work test and are not eligible for the JobKeeper payment may be eligible for other payments, such as the parenting payment, the job seeker payment, which of course currently includes the $550 fortnightly coronavirus supplement, as well as possibly being eligible for family tax benefit and both Parts A and Part B, as well as the newborn supplement and the newborn upfront payment of up to $2,239 for the first child,
Order.
$1,120
Time for the
for
answer has
subsequent.
expired. Senator McAllister, a final supplementary question.
Last Monday, the government announced it would force working women to pay childcare fees they couldn't afford. Last Thursday, the government voted against helping pregnant women affected by COVID-19 who are out of work because of COVID-19. Are there any women that the government is prepared to support?
Senator Payne.
Mr. President, I think Senator McAllister is not helping her own cause or anyone else's, frankly, in that statement. Clearly, the economic initiatives that the government has advanced in terms of the COVID response are to help all Australians. All Australians. And what I and others have made clear in relation to the childcare sector is that Senator McAllister.
Order. Order. Senator Payne.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As I have made clear, and the Minister Tehan has made clear, in working with the sector, the changes that the government made in recent weeks to address the childcare sector were very much needed by the sector to ensure it was able to survive and to ensure that it could offer increased care and to ensure that those parents seeking more care were able to obtain it. And a transition payment is being provided by the government which complements the JobKeeper payment
Order,
that was
Senator
previously
Payne.
in
Time
place
for the
as
answer
part of
has
that support.
expired. Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is to the Minister for Families and Social Services, Senator Ruston. How is the Morrison government ensuring vulnerable women and children experiencing or at risk of all forms of violence are supported during the coronavirus pandemic?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you very much, Senator Hughes, for a question on this particularly important matter. The federal government continues to work with the sector and with individuals to make sure that women and their children are supported and have the necessary avenues, should they need, to be assisted as a response to family and domestic violence. And over the past few months during the coronavirus pandemic, my colleague, the Minister for Women, Senator Payne, and myself have been working very closely with the state and territory ministers to make sure that our response is appropriate, that we have made sure that we've got all the safety measures in place, particularly recognising that it's actually the states and territories who have the primary responsibility for the delivery of frontline services to women who find themselves in a situation of needing help. But in addition to that, the Morrison government has made available $150 million on top of the existing money that we put into the National Plan to reduce violence against women and their children. And as part of that $150 million, $20 million has been invested to increase the capacity of national initiatives that were already included in the plan, but to make sure that they are supercharged. Because we didn't know at the start of this pandemic, and we still are unsure of what kind of support women are going to need. But as restrictions are starting to be lifted, we need to make sure that we're in a position that we have all of the support services in place so that if women need our support, that they are able to get it. So this could include such things as counselling support for families or at-risk people. It could also include men's behaviour change programs to make sure that we're providing not just short-term but medium and longer-term response to support men during this time. 1-800-RESPECT, making sure that there is sufficient resources to make sure that any woman who needs to access help is able to get it in a very timely manner.
Order. Senator Hughes, a supplementary question.
Thank you. How has the government ensured all Australians have access to information about domestic, family and sexual violence and the importance for those affected to seek help?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. During the COVID pandemic, it has been very challenging to make sure that all women and children, and men for that matter, have got access to timely and appropriate information to make sure that they can get the support that they need should they find themselves in a situation of domestic violence. A number of initiatives have been put in place, but one of the most critical information campaigns that we launched during this time is the Help Is Here campaign. And the critical message of the Help Is Here campaign is firstly to make sure that people know where they are able to get access to the supports they need should they find themselves in a situation of needing that, but also to really reinforce the message that tough times do not excuse tough times at home. So the Help Us Here campaign has used a number of different types of media and traditional media, but particularly we wanted to use more innovative ways. And I'd like to thank the supermarkets, Woolies, Coles, Aldi and Metcash for making sure that they made available the information in women's restrooms and the like so that women could get it.
Senator Hughes, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr President. Can the minister highlight the importance of an appropriately executed parliamentary inquiry into family, domestic and sexual violence?
Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, Mr President. It is very important that the inquiry that was referred by myself and the Minister for Women, Minister Payne, recently to the Standing Committee on Social Policy and Legal Affairs was clearly around two things. One was to make sure that we didn't miss the opportunity to learn through this particularly intense pandemic the impacts of the kind of crisis this is on women and their children as it related to domestic violence. The second aspect of this that we thought was very important is as we come up to the conclusion of the 4th Action Plan for the protection of women and their children, we thought it was a time that we needed to have a look at what was working and what wasn't working. We needed to listen to the experience of the sector, learn how various government services in the community, what they had to say and what they thought we should take into the next plan. But most particularly, we wanted to make sure that we have a platform to make sure all Australians understand that we all have a responsibility if we're really going to make a difference.
Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much. After that great answer, I ask that further questions be placed in the notice paper.